Yo guys, what is up? Max here in our video, and today we're talking about my time playing Redfall. Now, I was flown out to New York by Arkane/Bethesda to play Redfall Early. We got about 90 minutes on the game. We had access to the whole game. This wasn't like a demo or a vertical slice or anything. We could go anywhere, do anything. I did main missions. I fought the Rook. I did side quests. I cleared out vampire nests. I made the absolute most of my 90 minutes. Once again, only 90 minutes. And then I also got answers to a lot of your questions about the game from devs. So we're going to start out with a little like pros, cons list, things that I liked, things that I learned, and things that I'm a little bit worried about. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to try to answer any of your questions or questions that you guys asked me about the game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you find it informative. Huge thanks to Arkane and Bethesda for flying me out and giving me this amazing opportunity to play this game early. I had an absolute blast. Let's get into the video. So to start us off, one of the things that I noticed about Redfall that I really enjoyed is this game has great atmospheric horror. Yes, you're like using these kind of crazy weapons and contraptions and abilities to fight vampires, and your character feels pretty strong in this. However, it does nail those tense moments where I could feel myself getting nervous, my heart rate going up as I was creeping through a building, and there was tons of vampires that I could hear around other corners, around the walls. I knew if I turned my flashlight on, the vampires would alert to me, and the vampires in this game are scary enough that if you alert a bunch of them, you are going to die. They are pretty challenging. I was playing on normal difficulty, and I had to play pretty cautious to play for my life. I had to play stealthy. I was utilizing stealth and headshots to take out vampires instead of alerting the big hordes of them at a time. It was cool. And I wasn't expecting that kind of not jump scary, but just that atmospheric horror that this game does have to it. The next thing I enjoyed from my time playing Redfall is it felt like it encouraged and rewarded looting. Now, first off, this is an open world game, so there's a lot of places to go and see, but I noticed that during main missions, a lot of the times it would be structured more so of like a, hey, figure out where to go kind of type deal. The game didn't hold my hand, constantly telling me exactly where to go, which can kind of hurt the open world exploration experience. So that was great. Next off, there was a lot of areas that weren't marked or abandoned buildings that you could just wander into and find cool loot. Loot in this game is realistically placed. You won't find ammo in a street or a gun floating. Everything is placed realistically on shelves. Guns are hanging on gun racks, things like that, which made the looting experience feel pretty good. There is also grave locks in this game. Grave locks are hidden collectibles that are scattered throughout the world, and when you find a grave lock, it improves your ultimate ability regen. So you've got realistic, good-feeling looting, good exploration, and also rewards for doing that exploration, which I definitely enjoyed, even though I only had 90 minutes on the game. Another pro I had, and I could kind of put this into the things I learned section, but it was a thing that I learned that I really liked, was that as you kill special vampires in this game, you draw the attention of the vampire gods. Now, there are these big menacing vampire god bosses that you have to work your way up to, but as you kill more and more specialty vampires around the world, these are the vampires that have abilities or augments to them, you draw their attention and you fill up a bar. And that bar, when it reaches full, when it fills up, they bring down their henchman, their Rook. And that was something really cool. I had seen the Rook in prior gameplay things, but it was a pretty awesome event. And I was really enjoying killing those specialty vampires and seeing that bar go up. And then when I actually killed the Rook, because I did kill the Rook because I'm a gamer, I did get a legendary. So that kind of build up to that was definitely rewarding and a pretty cool moment during my 90 minutes. The next thing that I really enjoyed was the character progression and the meaningful synergies between your weapons and the character that you were playing. My favorite part about the looter shooter genre is that the character that you end up at the end of the game is so much more of a powerhouse than what you started, and that progression, grinding out better weapons, better gear, getting those ability upgrades feels impactful, and they definitely nailed that here. For example, the green and like white rarity weapons that I had some damage increases, maybe had some perks, but they didn't have a ton of synergy. Once you get into those higher tier of gear, for example, I had a legendary sniper on that when I got kills with that legendary sniper, I would refund my Raven ability. I was playing on Jacob, the sniper class. I had a psychic Raven, and my Raven, the way I spec'd it, would fly out and mark enemies for me, and those marked enemies would take more damage from all sources. So I would send my Raven out, I would use my sniper to take out those enemies and refund my Raven and get into this very cool loop. My like cloaking ability, for example, that I was using, it started out at base as just a basic cloak. I would turn invisible. Then I got a perk for it that changed it completely, that let me fire during it, and I would do more damage while firing from my cloaking ability, but every time I shot, I would reduce the duration. So I was incentivized to use slower, higher damage weapons. I was using a silenced pistol with it, my sniper rifle, and a shotgun to stay cloaked and shoot less, but I was getting more damage while cloaked and staying invisible. This paired with my Raven that was highlighting enemies for me, it just felt like I was very much in control, and I had so much cool synergies even at level 7. I was like level 7 when I was doing all this. So the fact that you have meaningful progression and that there is those like cool perks on weapons that will synergize with your character has me really excited for what's going to happen more so at the end of the game when we've got all legendary gear, all synergies. My last big pro is the difficulty of this game. Now, I was playing on normal difficulty for my time playing the game, and you need to use all of your tools, all of your resources properly in this game to excel. What I mean by that is I was running through one of the vampire nests. The vampire nests are their like RNG random modifier kind of dungeons that I enjoyed. My first vampire nest that I went through, I had no issues because I got really easy rolled modifiers. And the next one I went through, I had 2 elite modifiers on. And these elite modifiers spawned elite vampires and a ton of them in this nest. And as soon as I failed my stealth, or I wasn't able to stake one quickly enough because I was getting overwhelmed, the vampires swarm you. And these vampires in this game, you need to use your elements, aka like fire and electricity, UV light, or a stake to get rid of them, because if you do not stake them, they come back. And when you're fighting multiple vampires at the same time, it can be hard to get the opportunity to stake one individually in the chest while there's 4 others attacking you. So playing with teammates, I think, is actually going to be incentivized. I was fine playing solo. I know people have concerns about being a solo player versus a single player. I think both will have their challenges, but this game felt like it will genuinely promote team play when it comes to those harder difficulty areas, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And Jacob, the sniper character, didn't have a ton of ways to deal with that many vampires swarming me. Some of the other ones have like AoE electricities and big UV lights. I could tell that going in unprepared to these areas with these elite vampires was genuinely going to be difficult, as well as ammo is pretty scarce in this game. You do not have infinite ammo. I was constantly running out of ammo and having to scavenge for more ammo. You do not regen health at base, so if you get hit, you have to use a med pack. You only had 5 med packs, and if you ran out, you were out. You had to go find more. So I think this game is going to promote playing intelligently. I think it's going to have some really cool teamwork moments, and it was challenging. I was being challenged on a normal difficulty, and there's 2 more difficulties above that, so I cannot wait for once you get more teammates in, some more build synergies, unlock more legendary perks and like weapons. I'm excited for it. Next up, I've got a few neutral points. These are things that I learned about the game that I just didn't have enough time to like form an opinion on if I liked it or didn't like it, or just things that I think you should be aware of. So to start us off, you cannot pause this game, even though you can be playing single player and online. Anytime you pause the game keeps running in the background, which I found a little bit frustrating at times, just because it was like, oh, I just ran out of ammo on my pistol and I got no more ammo on my machine gun. Let me pull out a shotgun, and to open my inventory and try to pull out and put in like a shotgun into my inventory, I was still getting attacked. I was still getting mobbed by vampires. So there is no pause, or at least that I saw, when you pull up your like inventory, things like that, even when playing single player. The next thing I'm a bit neutral on, and this actually came from one of my discussions with one of the devs at the event, I was talking to him about respecking my character, and he was like, oh, you unlock respecking at level 10. You'll get points as you level up, but like, don't worry about it too much because by the end of the game, you'll probably have enough points to get about everything for your character. And that was a little concerning to me. Your skill points on this game felt impactful. You have really powerful upgrades from spending those skill points, but I think you're going to lose a little bit of the build diversity and the difference between one Jacob to another if they have all of the points or are able to get everything in their skill trees. So don't have enough time on the game to have an opinion on that yet, but I am kind of curious to if there will be a little bit more build diversity. It seems like maybe your build diversity will more come from your artifacts. You get crazy powerful artifacts from doing some of the harder content in the game, and different legendary weapons give you different special effects. So maybe that will be more of the build diversity than the particular skill tree, which I think is totally fine, but I'm curious to how that plays out. The next thing that I learned that I wasn't sure would be a feature or not from watching the gameplay and trailers for this game is there isn't a way to modify your weapons besides putting a stake on them. I saw guns in trailers with red dot sights, silencers, those kind of attachments. If your gun comes with a red dot, it's got a red dot on it. You can't add like an ACOG or a silencer to a weapon that doesn't already have one. Just something that I wasn't sure about. There also isn't any sort of crafting system. You do get a lot of materials such as water, tape, oil. These are all broken down into a currency that you can use and spend in the game, but there isn't any sort of crafting or way to modify your gear or weapons besides just how they drop, which I think is totally fine. Borderlands does just about the exact same thing. Just wanted to point that out to y'all. And my last neutral point is I noticed that the enemy AI for the humans wasn't great. Now, this is a vampire game. However, you will be fighting against cultists and humans. I fought against them plenty in my 90 minutes, and they seemed to not really seek cover or be afraid that I was shooting at them. They weren't really flanking. They kind of just stood out in the open and waited to be headshot by me. So that was something I noticed. It might have just been because I was on normal difficulty. I haven't played enough of this game to really have a strong opinion on if the AI is good or bad, but I noticed that they really didn't pose much of a threat at all compared to the vampires. And now for the cons list, and you'll note that the cons list is very short. I only, once again, got 90 minutes in this game. I'm sure my opinions will change once I have 30, 40, 50 hours into the game, but the biggest red flag for me was the frame rate. This game was really struggling to hold frames. It was dropping frames in combat, just exploring the open world, and it was definitely plaguing my gameplay. Now, we were on 4K Ultra settings at the time of recording this. I do not know the specs of the PC I was playing on. If I get any updates from them, I might put that as a pinned comment, because obviously if I was constantly dropping frames and we were on a 1660 graphics card or a 3090, 4080 or whatever it is, could obviously make a big difference. But the PCs that they gave us to play this game on were really, really struggling to run it. I didn't have a frame rate counter on the game. I did have DLSS set to performance, but if I had to spitball, we were probably dropping easily under 60 FPS, maybe down to even 30 to 40 FPS in super, super heavy, hectic combat. It definitely was noticeable, and I definitely wanted to point it out. I'm sure in the coming months we'll learn more about the performance of this game, but yeah, just something I noticed. The devs, when I talked to them, said that they were done with the game, that their number one priority, now that they're kind of ready with it, is to fix performance optimization and bugs. So it is very possible that this game could get into be a great state before it actually launches, but it was noticeable and I need to point it out. And lastly, to wrap up the video, I just wanted to answer some of the questions, or the most asked questions that I got. Now, I'm going to be doing my best to answer these from my time playing and also some of the information I got from the devs, but I don't have direct answers for some of these. So here we go. Genius Controls Chaos asked if you're able to complete everything solo. From what the dev said, in my experience, yes, you can do everything solo. There is going to be challenging content. These god vampires look like a real monster to fight, and I'm sure they're going to be easier to fight when you have teammates to draw aggro and healing abilities and things like that, but they definitely express that you can do the whole game solo, so if you are a solo player, you should be fine. Next up, Joel Other asks, as with any of these games, what does endgame content look like? And I actually have a specific answer to read off for you. Redfall has a specific story to tell, but once you have completed that, there are a number of additional activities, such as hunting down all the various hero outfits and weapons and stake variations, as well as the procedurally generated vampire nests that offer unique gameplay challenges every time and can be completed for new and powerful gear. It's worth bearing in mind that as your hero level goes up, your chance of fighting the elite variations of our vampires increase, so the game becomes more challenging. We'll have more to share on how we'll expand the game in the future. ESH 1993 asks, what does the future of the game look like post-launch? Do they have a content roadmap or a year plan once the game is already launched? Now, Redfall has already announced that they will have a Hero Pass, which is like a premium add-on you can buy to the game that is going to be including additional classes that will come out after the game launches. So a lot of their post-launch support that is public right now is going to be new classes for you to play or replay the game through. So that looks pretty cool. In terms of like specific plans, I did reach out to the devs about that, and they said via post-launch support, the answer is that we're not talking about post-launch stuff outside of what we've already announced at this time. So right now, not too much information besides it will have post-launch content, and that post-launch content that we know of at the time is additional classes. Lieutenant Lightning asks, how does gunplay feel? Will it feel smooth or clunky and stiff, assuming you'll be playing on controller? Now, I did play Redfall on controller. I was on an Xbox controller, and the gunplay felt pretty good. The guns had good feedback in like the controller. They had good visual impact, good sounds, and they were satisfying to shoot. I was enjoying the gunplay. I will say that the aiming was a little bit weird. I'm not sure if it was like just there wasn't a lot of aim assist or stick acceleration or something, but I didn't feel super confident in my shooting. I think that's more attributed to just not having a lot of time on the game, but it was something that I noticed, and yeah, just wanted to point out. Mental Mars asked about Layla's vampire ex-boyfriend skill and how procedural the vampire nests are. The vampire ex-boyfriend skill will summon a companion, aka your ex-boyfriend, to fight alongside you for a duration. It looks pretty freaking strong. It just like runs around and takes out all the enemies in front of you. And he also asked about how procedural nests are. Now, I did 2 vampire nests in my time playing. They are like pretty linear experiences where you're like going from the start to the end, and there'll be like obstacles and enemies and things in the way as you work towards the heart. Now, when I was talking to one of the devs, he said that the like actual layouts of the nests are pretty set in stone. However, the positioning of the enemies, what enemies are in them, and what kind of things will be in the nest is more of the procedural part. There are different modifiers that will roll every time you enter a nest, and those modifiers could determine the types of enemies, the specialty vampires, and so on and so forth. So while the nest layout should be pretty much the same when you go through, the enemies you encounter and your experience in that nest will change every time you do that. Lastly, I got a lot of questions about Redfall's crossplay support. It will be crossplay between the Xbox and PC and the multiple game stores on PC. So if you are a friend who's playing on Steam and you're a friend who's playing on Game Pass, you can play together with your friend who's also on the Xbox. So full crossplay support for the game. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I was able to answer a lot of your questions about the game. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop them down as a comment, and I'll do my best to respond to them. Overall, I enjoyed my time on Redfall. I wanted to play more. 90 minutes absolutely flew by, and I tried to get as much information as I could, but I cannot wait for this full game to launch, and I hope that they fix the FPS issues that I was experiencing, because I do think that they genuinely have a hit on their hands. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.